Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The role of precepts in our life as Buddhists is, as you know, absolutely central, and in our tradition we place great emphasis on the relationship, the integral relationship between Sila, Samadhi, Panya. When Ajahn Chah was a young monk, he had a great interest in Vinaya, in Sila. And in the forest tradition in northeast Thailand, the Vinaya text, which is used as a translation of a Sri Lankan commentary. It's called the Kubasika Varana, and it's incredibly detailed. And he also read the Path of Purification section on Sila, and he became a little discouraged because he wanted to be perfect in Sila, in a monk's Sila. And no matter how diligent he was and how much attention he paid Vinaya, how much passion he had for Vinaya and for Sila, he came to the conclusion that it just wasn't possible to practice all the rules all the time perfectly. And so when he went to pay his respects to Luang Pu Man, who is the father of our whole tradition, the first questions that he asked Luang Pu Man were not about meditation, but they were about Sila and Vinaya. And he asked, or he said to Luang Pu Man, that he just didn't feel it was humanly possible to keep all the rules, as explained in the Visuddhimagga. And Luang Pu Man said, there are just two things really that are important, and in Sila, whatever level it may be, and those are Hiri and Ottappa, which you may be familiar with. These words are kind of difficult to translate into English or European languages, and I chose to translate them as wise shame and wise fear, because simply referring to them as shame and fear is maybe not so inspiring, but to explain them as Buddhists or as renunciates, then we develop the samana sanya, or we develop a sanya, or a set of perceptions. We educate our perceptions and the way that we look at ourselves and who we are in the world. So obviously this is not an ultimate Dhamma, but it's a skillful use of conventions. And so the clearer we are about what it means to us to be a human being, what it means to us to be a mother, a father, a daughter, a son, what it means to us to be a Buddhist, what it means to us to be a 5 precept, someone who upholds the 5 precepts, or one who upholds the 8 precepts. These are things that we go over in our minds again and again, so very clear. And then what happens is, when we're about to do something or say something, which is in conflict with those ideals and those standards, then there is a recognition, no, this would be breaking my precept, or this would be a betrayal of my principles or of my ideals. So that's the cognitive side, this recognition that this is in conflict. And then there's a feeling that arises, and that's the feeling the Buddha called wise shame. Okay, so as you practice this over a course of time, the cognitive element starts to fade away, and the emotional element becomes strong. So it's almost immediate, and it's like you're just a shrinking away from things. So this is what the Buddha called wise shame. Wise fear is fear of the consequences of actions. So whenever we want to do something, and there's one part of like a conscience says it's not quite right to do that, and then this reckless mind just says, shut up, go away, I just want to do this. But you're developing this willingness, ability to stop and look at the consequences. What would be the consequences to my health, my peace of mind, my self-respect, my upholding of my principles? How would it affect my relationship with the people around me? So again, you have these two elements. You have this the cognitive, this thinking based on reflection on the law of karma and cause and effect, and also your own experiences, and then you have the emotion. And as you practice this over a course of time, again the thinking part tends to fall away, and the emotional part, this kind of fear, is just, so it's a special kind of fear. It's not like fear of ghosts or fear. It's based upon wise reflection. And so these two Dhammas, these two qualities are very important to cultivate as a support for precepts. Now with the 5 precepts, the Buddha referred to them very beautifully as the great dana, mahadana. So it's a very different idea from precepts and commandments than we're familiar with in a Western culture. It's not a set of rules laid down by somebody that you have to keep, and if you keep them you get a reward, and if you don't you get punished. But we're starting off like how does not only individuals, but how does a whole community, how does a whole society evolve in line with the Buddha Dhamma? So to begin with, the Buddha said that there are 4 things necessary in any kind of community before any kind of spiritual development can take place. So you have to be free of anxiety with regards to clothing, food, shelter and medicine. And it's the responsibility of a government to make sure that everybody under its control or under its governance should be free of fear and anxiety with regards to these things. But then when we say we have these things as a supports, what is the one thing that everybody, we could say, whether we're Buddhists or Christians or atheists or whatever, there's one basic thing that we all need as a foundation in our life, and that's a sense of safety, isn't it? We need to feel safe. If you can have all the meditation techniques, and you can have a great teacher, but if you're sitting somewhere and you feel that there's enemies or there's danger around you, you're not going to get very peaceful. And the sense of safety is basic human need. So the Buddha said someone who keeps precepts is someone who gives the sense of safety to everyone around them. So when you keep precepts, you're giving a gift to your family, your community. You're saying the thing that that you need the most in the world, in your life, I'm giving you free. You can feel absolutely safe in my presence. I would never hurt you. I would never abuse you physically or verbally. I would never take anything that belongs to you. I would never cheat on you or deceive you. I would never lie to you. I would never take alcohol or drugs which would affect my judgment and my wise shame and wise fear. And so in the presence of someone who keeps the 5 precepts, then people feel safe. And so the Buddha called this Mahadana. So in Buddhist countries, often people are, I don't have very much money, I don't have, to make a lot of offerings at the temple. And so this is something that I speak about a lot, is there's a higher dana. You keep the 5 precepts and you're giving a wonderful gift to everyone around you. So, if we, and we can just consider that for ourselves, when you're in the presence of someone that you know would never hurt you or abuse you or cheat you or deceive you, just how wonderful that feels. And then you think that same wonderful feeling you can give to everyone around you by keeping precepts. So it's a wonderful thing. So so the 5 precepts is already, wonderful already, and you're taking on the 8 precepts. So with the eight precepts, it's a shift, that the emphasis is towards renunciation, as you say, and creating these supporting conditions for liberation. So from a trusting and an honest relationship, family relationship with a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and taking the celibate precept, and that in a stroke takes you away from the world in a very significant way. And there's no question that lay householders keeping the 5 precepts have realized the Dhamma and become stream enterers, and even and Wat Sacca, the famous Upasika in the time of the Buddha, she had like 20 children, and she was Sotapanna. So it's not that it's an absolute bar to spiritual development, but the celibate life is one which helps and supports the practice of Dhamma, because sooner or later on the path the mind has to transcend sensuality, even in its more acceptable or innocent forms. And so this is making a clear commitment to the transcendence of sensuality as a refuge in life. And it's a big step, and it's a very admirable step to take from monastic point of view. Then the other 3 precepts are aimed at simplifying life. So as you know, the life these days becomes more and more complex, and so many of the things in the world today are this confusing mixture of the beneficial and the harmful. And when we when we use them, we try to maximize the benefits and minimize the harmful aspects, but it's very difficult to do that. And apart from anything else, they tend to be very time-consuming, and they draw us into a particular kind of world, which maybe is not overall so helpful for us. So the 8 precepts helps us to take a standard in which we have clear voluntary guidelines to simplify our contact with the world around us and the society we live in. So refraining from the evening meal means that we're just eating as much as we need to keep us healthy and strong as much as possible, to give us the energy to be able to devote ourselves to Dhamma. So it's a turning away from indulgence in food and making food, like in most cultures, like food is at the center of their culture, and we're moving food away to the side. It's not a big thing in our lives anymore. It's not we say we don't find some food delicious, we like food more, some food more than another, but it's just not playing such a big part in our life. We say we just eat as much as the body needs just to get by. And refraining from eating in the evening frees up a lot of time that would otherwise be spent in cooking and eating and cleaning and everything that comes along with it. So it's time that in a busy life, then it frees up some time, but even in a quieter life, then it gives a continuity of practice. Eating involves digestion, and that affects the clarity of your mind, and without food in the evening, you feel very light. It's very conducive to meditation practice. And I believe it also has an effect on how much sleep you need. That I think not eating in the evening reduces the amount of sleep that the body needs, which is, again, more time for Dhamma practice. So refraining from all kinds of ornamentation and enjoyments, again, this simplifying, not looking for refuge and distraction in various kinds of worldly enjoyments, and having taken the celibate precept, then not giving importance to ornamenting the body in a way that's meant to promote our physical attractiveness. And again, that frees up a lot of time and mental effort and anxiety concerning our appearance, and less time on distractions, then the more time we have for more important things. You're not sleeping on high luxurious beds, then I think really that precept is, the spirit of that precept is not to indulge in sleep and to experiment and find what's the right amount of sleep for you. And some monks, young monks particularly, get very idealistic about this, that they read that the great monks of the past and it's only sleep for 4 hours a night, and maybe some do, but not all of them by any means. And it's more a matter of experimenting with sleep and to find what feels right and sustainable long term. So if you push yourself too much with sleep, then obviously it can have a detrimental effect on your meditation, but you can also get you can get depressed doing that. If you sleep too much, you tend to get very kind of dull and irritable. So finding what's the right amount. So these are the 8 precepts, and they provide a wonderful foundation for practice. And of course, as with the 5 precepts, the importance is that we take them on voluntarily and we see the value of each one of them, and we we think about them a lot and review them a lot. But you're probably going to every now and again, it's quite likely you're going to break a precept without meaning to, particularly the speech one. That's very difficult to keep completely purely. So you have to understand that purity of precepts is in your overall intention. Okay, so you have an overall intention to speak the truth and not to lie and to deceive. But maybe in the stress of a moment or something, and you lose your mindfulness, and then you say something, and afterwards you feel a lot of distress. Then you come to see the teacher, and then you confess the offense, and make accept responsibility, confess, and make a determination not to make that mistake again as far as possible. And when there is that process of taking responsibility, revealing, not hiding, concealing, or being defensive, and making the determination to not to do that again, then the purity of the precepts is preserved. Okay, so it's in particularly the third leg of that, when you make this firm determination not to do that again. But of course, willpower is not enough. So if you do break a precept, the speech one, let's say, then it's good to just to review what led up to you breaking the precept, and then you say, oh yeah, maybe just too much indulgence in conversation, or doing too many things at the same time, and I lost my mindfulness. So when you review precepts, it's not to say, oh, I'm bad, or I'm no good, but it's to learn from it for the next time, because the precepts are training rules. They're the things that we're using as tools to educate our conduct. And so sometimes you're not so familiar with the tool, or maybe you don't use the tool as well as you should do, but the results of it should be this sense of self-respect, and you should really feel comfortable in your own company. You feel that you like being with yourself, you like who you are now, you like the fact that you can live your life within these boundaries and feel happy about it. So yes, once again, my appreciation, and I hope that you will fulfill all of your aspirations.
Sammayang amavarakataha sadhukatang tamasya sadhu 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 anumodami.